And I said, this sounds crazy, going to New York from Texas to try to get pregnant.
We met in high school, kind of just through some mutual friends.
Went to high school together, so we've known each other our whole lives.
We got proposed right out of high school and then got married 6 months later.
Yeah, bought our first house.
Wanted to enjoy the married life for a little bit.
And then Shelby decided we were ready to have kids. I didn't think I was. I probably wasn't.
Kind of started thinking, we wanted to be young parents. That was kind of always our goal.
We had already been married for 3 years at that point. And I just really wanted to be a mom and
Grow our family.
Grow the family. And I just felt like it was that time.
Yeah, and it was. I didn't know how long it would take, but we tried for a good while. I know it was multiple years.
In my head, I started thinking, I think something's wrong.
Never got pregnant. Our friends all around us were having kids, and I didn't think much of it, but she began to wonder if something was wrong with us, if there was a reason why we couldn't get pregnant naturally. And so she pushed us to go get checked out. So we did.
You had to run all the tests. I had to have all the tests ran. And
he said, you will never get pregnant on your own. At that moment, you just kind of feel like a failure. Being told that you're probably never gonna be a mom, you're never gonna get to hear that little voice say, I love you. It's just heartbreaking. And we couldn't even drive home. We were just heartbroken, I guess is the word.
After that point, it was kind of a blur. I don't remember anything he said after that. It was a 3-hour car ride home, and we were both crying our eyes out, calling our family, trying to get advice what to do.
To be told that we could never be parents, and that's really what we wanted. We grew up on a farm and ranch, and we wanted to continue that. He's the last farmer in both of our families, and we thought, okay, that it's gonna end with us.
It felt just kind of like a void, It was like, why us? Why are we the ones that have trouble when people around the world, they can get pregnant at the drop of a hat, first trial and accident. Kids that they don't even want, and we want to grow our family and can't even have one. We said, well, what's the next steps? And they said, well, IVF. We said, what's that? And they broke it down. We said, okay, well, when can we start? What does all it involve? So, well, first we need to talk about, pricing and everything.
And of course, then he throws in, and then our fee is gonna be $40,000 to do IVF, and that still might not work for y'all.
Well, we didn't have $40,000 to spend.
No, we were young. I'm sure our jaws dropped because it was like, okay, that's out of the question.
At that point, we just kind of put a halt to it because we didn't have $40,000 as, 23-year-olds. How are we supposed to do that?
It was just defeat, really, because there is an option out there, but it's just so far away you can't reach it. It felt lonely, like we were the only ones going through this. And we didn't have really anyone to turn to that had been through these struggles. We had to be teammates and get through this together. It's unreal now to realize how many people do go through this stuff. You just don't hear about it. It's one of those things you might not want to talk about, but it's a very common problem and you're not alone.
So we just kind of took a halt, didn't really pursue much there. And then I find a girl who was doing IVF. She looked relatively normal.
She was going through it, and I just thought, okay, well, she can do it, then surely we can do it.
I asked her, I said, well, how do you do this if you are just a normal person? How do you afford it? She told me about CNY. And I thought, okay, it's probably something on the black market.
I just thought, there's no way, that is not real. The fact that they're offering that at such a discounted rate, that's gotta be a scam. You're gonna go under the knife and wake up without a kidney.
There's something wrong.
Like, you're telling me we're gonna fly to New York.
It's gonna be cheaper.
And it's gonna be cheaper. And we're gonna come back pregnant.
Yes.
Like, okay.
We scheduled a consultation, tons of questions, and they answer every single one of them, and just super easy to work with.
Did the consultation, they got us lined out on the medicine.
Started the retrieval process. To me, it's a little bit harder on your body because you're taking all of these shots in your stomach, you're taking all the pills, and just getting your body ready to produce those eggs.
They really just put us at peace about it, and they said, you know, you can meet with your own OB there. She can kind of monitor you until the actual retrieval and the transfer. And so, one, I got to stay with someone I'm familiar with, but I also had someone there that's a specialist on my side, you know, telling me how all of it's supposed to work.
So we got to New York. They were just great the whole time. I mean, everybody in the back, super great. Kind of calmed my nerves because, of course, you're nervous. Your hormones are up to here. But they were really great through all of that.
But from the retrieval to the transfer, there was a few months in there.
Yeah.
Because then you had to kind of switch to some different medicines and then start the transfer process. They fertilized them. I believe there's over a dozen were successfully fertilized. So we have that many embryos. And months later, we go back for the transfer. Had that transfer, came back, you know, super hopeful.
We got the call that we were pregnant, and then you kind of have to wait after that to make sure that the baby continues to grow. That's the part that is probably the most intense.
And then the numbers weren't doubling like they were supposed to.
Yeah.
So it's failed transfer. And so it was I guess, a failed transfer. And so she was devastated. Same thing, you know, we're surrounded by our friends, all having kids, and we just want to be right there with them and grow our family too. Another blow, you know, felt like, well, golly, this isn't gonna work either, you know?
Yeah, and I did not want to continue.
No, she was over it.
I was done. I thought, okay, we spent all this money and my body fails. And so I did not want to continue, but
I persisted. And months later,
the next month.
Yeah, we flew back, had another transfer.
Yes, and it was successful.
Very successful.
Yeah.
So when we got the call that it was growing, and then we went to the first ultrasound, and then we saw her moving and doing these little flips, there's just no way to really describe it or put it in words other than it was just the best feeling. Hearing that heartbeat, knowing that all of this was for something and something bigger than us.
Delivered Emma in October of 2020.
Yes.
Whenever we were in the delivery room and we had her, both of us were obviously very anxious. We went through so many trials just to get to this point. And you just want that healthy baby, and you just want to hear that cry. You know, we heard it, and it was almost just like an unbelievable sound.
They delivered her and put her in our arms and just left the room. You were like, what do we do now? And never changed a diaper. The pediatrician had to help me change my first diaper.
And then they put that little baby on your chest, and it's just all worth it. All of it. All the shots, all the tears, all the pain, all the struggles.
I never knew that you could love something so much. You know, it's a different love than me and
Your
you have.
spouse, yeah.
You can't explain it.
What do you have to say to that girl who's feeling hopeless right now?
That I've been there. You feel like you're a failure. You feel like you're alone. But there's just a bigger community out there, and there's so much support if you just ask. That's what we're all here for. We've all been through it. Every case is different, I know, but there is always hope.
And then
3.5 years later, we decided we wanted another one.
now he's 10 months old.
Almost one.
Almost one.
So we have 2 CNY babies.
Yep. Couldn't be happier.